Thank you, Russ, and congratulations to Mr. Toll's recognition, so well deserved. So, before we go on, and Susan's going to come and give you an overview of what we've done so far, partly because so many of us here were not with us from the beginning, and so we want to make sure that everybody has a good foundation of what the project and the process is all about. But before we do that, you guys, I'm sure you noticed all of us in the sweatshirts, and these are our moderators. And Susan and I can't say enough about our moderators. We love them to death. These are people who stepped up to the plate back in September, and through 6 weeks of training, 1 day a week for 6 weeks, they learned how to moderate deliberative dialogues. And it wasn't easy, it wasn't pretty, and even the moderating isn't really pretty, because often the discussion is going one way, you think it should be going another way, but their job is to remain neutral and just facilitate the discussion, and they'll tell you how challenging that is. But anyway, we love them so much, and I just want to acknowledge, and just raise your hand when I acknowledge you, that Dr. Nelson, Geraldine Nelson, Mexie Wilson, and if you don't have your sweatshirt, don't raise your hand. So Russ Neal is one of our moderators, Gazelle Smith, Dan Mark Cunningham, Gloria Porter, Diana Autry, Marcus Moore, Jennifer K. Jeter, Sandra McLean, Gerald Gould, Sandra McLean, Carmen Harris, Beatrice Boyd, and anybody else? Oh, Joyce Anderson, and Wanda Rooker, and Kwabena. And then our students. We have what we call student voice facilitators. We always, where's Ariel? Ariel Campbell? Okay, anybody else? Any of our adults? Okay, and then we have our students, which again we call student voice facilitators. We always tell the students it can't be about you without you. And so we understand that their voice is very critical to the process. And so their voice needs to be heard, and so our student voice facilitators, raise your hand. Okay, they're basically all over here in the corner because they help with registration, so they're eating, but we have Flo Cunningham, Shonda Johnson, Lyric Henderson, Janessa Burnett, and John Jones, and where's Marcus? Marcus Anderson. So again, thank you so much. Okay, and at this time, Susan is going to go over with you, as briefly as we can, the process up to this point.
Thank you, Crystal. I just want to extend my great appreciation for all of you being here, because this really is about us all working together to achieve the vision that we all want so badly for the communities in which we live.
Well, it sounds terrible. I'm just going to talk about this. I have a loud voice anyway. So part of our work first was doing the moderator training, which Crystal explained to you was six sessions of intensive training. And we will continue to meet with the moderators throughout this whole process. And the idea is to really raise the capacity of the community to do this work, so that people can focus on the common ground of what we want to work on together to improve our community, and then just go about doing that work. So the moderators play a critical role, and we started out with that training because of that. Prior to that, we had an advisory group. Initially, we were going to do a visioning session in each of the CLCs, but our advisory group from the book community said, we need to have a community-wide vision statement. And so we heard that, and we changed our kickoff instead to doing a community-wide visioning statement. Kwabena Shelton over there, one of our moderators, had a process to use for community visioning, and he helped Crystal and I along understand the details of that process, and it resonated a lot with our work, and our moderators helped facilitate the visioning process. We had about 90 people in our community come to that session, and we were all in 16 circles and got down to one big circle and came up with a beautiful vision for the Bhutto community, which is over here, and I'd like to read it out loud. We envision a community that values diversity and maintains high standards in a safe and nurturing environment that builds independence and economic self-sufficiency while educating our community in the knowledge of self and promoting a healthy quality of life for all throughout the life cycle. What a powerful vision. And that's what this work is all then geared towards. We then held a series of 3 dialogues in each of the CLCs, those being Helen Arnold, Krauss, Schumacher, and the combined Buchtel-Perkins dialogue, because there's now going to be a Buchtel CLC, which will be both for the middle school and the high school. And in those dialogues, dialogue 1 was all about people, first of all, sharing their experience, a good experience and a bad experience that they had growing up or currently in their neighborhood. And then also talking about what ideas in terms of programs, services, and activities they'd like to see go on at their CLC or emanate from their CLC to impact the community vision. That was dialogue 1. Dialogue 2 then was what we call our deliberative process, where each idea then went through a fair hearing, if you will. All the pros about that idea were discussed. All the cons about those ideas were discussed. And then the trade-offs. If you were to embrace that idea, what would you have to give up in order to see that idea come to reality? That was the deliberative portion of the dialogue. Then in the third dialogue was the time to make a decision on coming to the top priority of all those ideas generated. Which of those top priorities do you think would have the greatest impact to support the community vision? That was the most difficult dialogue, because everything's theoretical until you have to come down to a decision. And you know, I think the group did a good job. We learned from it. It was hard, and we were getting there. But we came up, each CLC came up with a top priority that they're going to then work on from now until the beginning of the year to implement in the schools. And that brings us really to today, right, Crystal? Anything you want to add to that? Okay, so that's the process for those of you who are not here for all of our pieces and parts. Those are the pieces and parts that brought us here today.
Thank you, Susan. Sure. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we're here today to reflect on what we've done, to judge our progress, and to celebrate our success. And so, what we want to do is, by way of being very transparent and very informative, and hopefully bringing more people into the fold, is we wanted to share with the community the action priorities that were decided upon by each of the community learning centers. And in order to introduce the action priority, we have asked the moderators who moderated the particular discussion circle. The discussion circles were held at Krauss, Schumacher, Helen Arnold, and then a combined one, Buchtel-Perkins. And so in each of the discussion circles varied from about 20 to 25 people. And again, as Susan said, it was hard work. Some people came for all 3. Some people weren't able to make it for all 3. But ultimately, each discussion circle came up with an action priority. Now, Buchtel had 2 discussion circles. And so, surprisingly, though, they came up actually with the same action priorities. And so we'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a minute. But at this point, we'd like for, we want to go over Helen Arnold first. And in order to have a report out on Helen Arnold, we're going to bring Beatrice Boyd, B. Boyd up. And Helen Curry was also the moderator, but she had a function at the University of Akron. So B, if you can just read. I love it, Mike. I don't know anything.
Hi, thank you so very much for coming, and I hope that you find it profitable to continue to come back. At Helen Arnold, the top priority was economic and financial planning. That's what our team did at Helen Arnold decided on. Thank you.
And you might say, well, what does that mean? Okay, give her a hand. You might say, well, what does that entail? Well, we can't really tell you for sure what it would, all of what it would entail. As Susan said, for each of these action priorities, we'll then be creating action teams. This is our mic system we bought with the grant fund, so I'm not sure. sure if it was a good investment or not. But anyway, so we're going to have we call them research and action teams, because some people are saying, you know, you guys are going over stuff that's already out there. And we don't deny that there are many, many programs out there. So if there's something already out there, part of the research action team's duties will be to research what's already out there. You know, how's it doing? Is it working? What else does it need? What does this whole action team involve? What does this whole action priority involve? It might involve, financial planning classes. It might involve, any number of different things. But that's the work of the research and action team to